guys, welcome to the Wonderfully Complex podcast. I'm Heather.
And I'm Misty.
And we are just two women that are studying the Word together and learning what that looks like to apply to our everyday life and having fun along the way. So come on and join us.
Okay, let's get at it. Chapter 9. Paul gives up his rights. Am I not as free as anyone else? Am I not an apostle? Haven't I seen Jesus our Lord with my own eyes? Isn't it because of my work that you belong to the Lord? Even if others think I am an apostle, I am not an apostle. I certainly am to you. You yourselves are proof that I am the Lord's apostle. This is my answer to those who question my authority. Don't we have the right to live in your homes and share your meals? Don't we have the right to bring a believing wife with us as other apostles and the Lord's brothers do? And as Peter does? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have to work to support ourselves? What soldier has to pay his own expenses? What farmer plants a vineyard and doesn't have the right to eat some of its fruit? What shepherd cares for a flock of sheep and isn't allowed to drink some of the milk? Am I expressing merely a human opinion, or does the law say the same thing? For the law of Moses says, you must not muzzle an ox to keep it from eating, as it treads out the grain. Was God thinking only about oxen when he said this? Wasn't he actually speaking to us? Yes, it was written for us, so that the one who plows and the one who threshes the grain might both expect a share of the harvest. Since we have planted spiritual seed among you, aren't we entitled to a harvest of physical food and drink? If you support others who preach to you, shouldn't we have an even greater right to be supported? But we have never used this right. We would rather put up with anything than be an obstacle to the good news about Christ.
So I wanted to share something from our devotional when we were reading that. And I had that from the devotional, it was saying, it's worth first considering who Paul was. He was commissioned by Jesus Christ in person, and that was from Acts 9, chapter 9, and such was a legitimate apostle to the non-Jewish world. He proclaimed the gospel to people who had never heard of it before and had planted countless churches. From a human perspective, his labors led to the gospel fruit in many and many lives, including the Corinthians. So he was coming with that, like, I am your apostle. I am an apostle. Like,
right.
God gave me this right. But this is something I didn't really know, though, about apostles and how they had these rights, and that they were very similar to everything he was just describing. Everyone else, and like the soldier who had his own expense, the farmer who planted in the vineyard had his own grapes. Like, he also had rights to be taken care of by the church, and I guess that's similar to like the pastor, to take care of a pastor, but I just didn't think about that with the apostles. And I loved how he was like, but we've not used any of these rights.
Yeah.
We've not used any of these, and instead they've given up all those things for the hope of sharing the gospel and that other people may know him.
Right. And to make sure that his intentions weren't misunderstood. He wasn't there just freeloading off of people and preaching about Jesus. He was there working hard as a tent maker and like really
completely submissive to whatever Christ was wanting.
Getting into the community, being a part of the working force, not, which I'm sure, some of the other apostles or teachers that he had talked about previously in this, it sounds like they were actually doing that, taking advantage of the situation. We get into 2 Corinthians and it actually starts talking about people they called super apostles, which is a funny term to think about, but it's just the people that were the speakers that were just taking advantage of the situation and being there and being the important people and expecting to get all of the perks with it. Yeah, and Paul wanted to make sure they knew that was not what they were doing.
Which is great, because then I feel like he's like, so hear me when I write you this letter, and this being more than his first letter. Like, I have all good intentions for you. I have all good intentions what I'm doing. I'm not trying to come with pride and ego, and I'm not trying to use you and take advantage of you, but I genuinely want to help you.
Right. Well, and part that he had talked about too, about how, other people were saying that he might not be an apostle. He's like, you of all people should know. He had spent like a year and a half with these people. He had like founded their church. He had, worked with the first believing people in Corinth. He's like, you're proof that I'm an apostle.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not even, it shouldn't even be a
It's not a
question.
debate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know where everything started.
Right.
You know the foundation of this.
Exactly.
You know the beginning story. Yeah.
Like,
you were there.
It's like you said, just think.
Yeah. But I like that he reminded them though, like, I do have rights to all of these things.
Mhm.
Like, let me remind you
Right.
that I do have rights to this.
Right.
And I think almost like trying to humble them again of like,
right. And I think it's a big deal too. It's like, it's one thing to be humble and meek and everything, but it's okay to, like, when something like this is going on, just like, wait a minute. And actually just like, this is who I am. This is who God made me. This is what God has called me to do. This is what I've been doing. And you've seen this. Actually, like, just put your foot down when needed.
Yeah.
And not be just a doormat Christian,
Yeah, he was definitely putting his foot down in this moment.
Yeah.
Through this book.
Through the whole book.
Through this book. But
yeah.
indirectly to specifically him. Mm-hmm. He was putting
right.
his foot down and not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to. I mean, we could turn the other cheek, but we don't have to. We can put ourselves back at the level that God intended us to be at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't need to be a doormat.
Right.
All right, let's continue on to verse 13 of 9. So, don't you know that those who serve in the temple get their food from the temple, and that those who serve at the altar share in what is offered at the altar? In the same way, the Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should receive their living from the gospel. But I have not used any of these rights. I am not writing in this in the hope that you do such things for me. For I would rather die than allow anyone to deprive me of this boast. For when I preach the gospel, I cannot boast, since I am compelled to preach. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. If I preach voluntarily, I have a reward. If not voluntarily, I am simply discharging the trust committed to me. What then is my reward? Just this, that is, preaching the gospel. I may offer it free of charge, and so not to make full use of my rights as a preacher of the gospel.
Mm-hmm. So he's reiterating all of that.
Yeah.
That he really, like, this is, you've seen this. This is nothing new. He's talking about going all the way back to the temple. And, before he was talking about Moses, is like, this is the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah. I like that he says, in 16, that for when I preach the gospel, I cannot boast, since I am compelled to preach. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. So he's like, I'm not bragging.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bragging, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. So, and again, he talks about, like, I'm paying for myself.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we can go on to 19.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though I am a free man with no master, I have become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ. When I was with the Jews, I lived like a Jew to bring the Jews to Christ. When I was with those who follow the Jewish law, I too lived under the law. Even though I am not subject to the law, I did this so I could bring to Christ those who are under the law. When I am with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish law, I too live apart from the law so I can bring them to Christ. But I do not ignore the law of God. I obey the law of Christ. When I am with those who are weak, I share in their weakness, for I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and share in its blessings.
I think this was the part in our devotional where it was talking about being a chameleon for Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a cool analogy of what Paul is saying he was doing and how he is meeting people where they're at, basically.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I really like this, especially, because when I was younger, I did a lot of research, and on missionary work and stuff like that, because I was really thinking about doing that overseas. And there were so many missionaries that they would uproot and then they would go somewhere and they would just start their mission and then just start preaching. And it talked about how those people just were not nearly as successful as the people who were willing to actually bring their lives to whatever culture they were planning on reaching, and work with them and live with them and get to know the culture and be sort of integrate.
Submersing it into that
Yeah.
culture, yeah.
And bringing their children too, because that was another big thing, is a lot of missionaries would leave their children at home while they went abroad for safety or for schooling or whatever. And the people in the culture would see that as, well, they're not actually part of us. Their family's still in the U.S.
The trust wasn't there.
Right. It's like,
Yeah.
but you see that even when you're working in your own community, there are different subcultures in our community. And if you're not willing to actually get to know those people or care about them and their lives and how they live and how they work and how their families work and, just their history, then why would they care about what you have to say about Jesus? Because they can tell that you just sort of have an agenda. You don't.
Your heart's not in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just proselytizing or, going out and just, which can be a good thing. But if you're actually living in the culture like Paul did, you're actually caring for the people. You're loving the people. You're wanting to improve their community to benefit them. It's not about you and what you're doing. You're being called to that community, to that culture, to serve them. And that's exactly that's just a really good example there. But it doesn't mean, he says he doesn't ignore the law. So that means he's not like, saying, I go to reach the idol worshippers and they become an idol worshiper. That's not what he's saying. He's not.
Still has boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
He's still being faithful to what God has called us to do and the righteousness that we're supposed to live in, being set apart from the world. But he's immersing himself in the world.
Yeah. So he worked alongside them. He had a house next to them.
Yeah. He was in the marketplace,
with
with the tent maker thing. He actually was in the marketplace, like with all of the not just the people buying, but the other vendors and all that. He was actually a part of the business community.
Yeah. And I imagine just the approach he could take when he is resembling them, but then looks slightly different. Not in like ego, but like just he presents himself a little different. And that would then cue people being like, like you're working here, but
yeah. Well, and even the conversations in the community, it's like, oh yeah, I know Paul. He fixed my tent.
Yeah.
The
good that he was doing. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Being the hands and feet of Jesus in that way of Jesus was walking and helping people along the way. And so Paul was helping people along the way. Yeah. Just that communication of good reputation that he would carry, not out of pride, but helpfulness. And servanthood. That's the word I'm looking for. Being a servant.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many times you see people who are like really wrapped up in ministry and the only place you see them is in a church building.
I was just going to say, yeah. And they're like, I really want to help I want to help people know to Christ. And they've not stepped outside their four walls.
Right. It's either home or the church or, occasionally they might go grocery shopping, but they're not in the community. Yeah. And they're not known, where Paul would have been seen daily out in the community, working with people who weren't believers, building relationships that, obviously some of them grew into something a lot deeper than just a relationship at the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, I think for us, you said so when we go to the store or when we are getting our car worked on or we're helping a neighbor with their yard work or whatever that looks like, can we be intentional when we see someone in the neighborhood doing yard work? Like, can we go be servanthood and helping them? And, or when we're in the grocery store, can we be intentional when we're in the grocery store? If we see someone that's in need of something, like I think of someone less fortunate, like, can you somehow cover their groceries for the day?
Right.
Or can you help someone to the car? Or
even helping somebody get something off the shelf. Because
mm-hmm.
there's been a lot of times, you walk down an aisle and you'll see somebody who's, has whatever is stopping them from reaching the higher shelves or carrying certain things, just having an eye to be there to help them. Or a mom in the parking lot. I don't know how many times I've seen moms that just have their hands full, and then it comes to taking the cart back.
Yes.
Just keeping an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
the person walking
yeah.
down the aisle and they're looking for something, they can't find it. Can I
Mhm.
help you look? Can I help you find
It's like, it's
something?
not your job, but it's okay to do that. It's okay to be that. And then you get to be known as that person. And that's not a bad thing, because people are seeing you in the community and they're seeing you as a helpful person in the community. And, and you get to cross paths again with these people multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And they, even if they don't know your name,
Mm-hmm.
they know you're somebody that they can go to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so huge when it comes to relationship building. Because if you want to just go and evangelize and just go right up to someone and start talking to them about Jesus, it's like, that's going to have an effect. And it's not always a bad thing. But if you know that person and you're working with them in their life and they're having a hard time, and you bring them a meal or you help them with their car, and then you start having conversations about how they can work through things in their life and how Jesus fits into that, and how there's a hope beyond just what they're struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
It means so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the roots have been deepened in that relationship, that there's the heart is softened to hear those things, and there's trust built. And Paul was in it with them. He was in the grind, in the life with them, meeting where they were at, not in making sure he was still honoring God and all of that. And so that can be speaking to us now and how we're walking out our lives.
Right. Making sure
not
people
having
know
such
that we care.
blinders of our life, but really looking up and looking out and seeing who is in need, and how can I represent Christ to them today.
Right.
Every day. Right.
Well, and then those people know that we are sharing something that's important to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just preaching at them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're sharing a part of our lives and what we love with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just feeling like they're being judged or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that one saying? It's like, people will care about what you know when they know that you care about, or when they know about what you care. And it's just as, I don't know, it's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And we all know that intuitively with anyone that's talking to us, but sometimes we forget about that when we're talking to others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think in our culture, we're so busy that we get so distracted that we aren't even having the conversation. I think a lot of us Christians, myself included, have been lazy Christians, that I've not even just put the effort to even take time to build those relationships. Mm-hmm. And I'm just getting through my day and doing my to-do list, and I have not even made the note of, have I shared anything of God today with people? Like, mm-hmm. Have I shown God? I'm kind and I'm, but like, have I taken that next step with people of...
Right. Well, and that's important when God brings someone to your mind. If you don't, at that point, it's like you really need to make a note. I need to text this person. I need to call this person, or maybe even set up a date to go on a lunch or a breakfast or something with that person, or invite them over for a meal.
Yes.
Or go for a walk or something, because it's like God brings those people to our minds for a reason.
Yes.
And a lot of times, once you start following through with that, you'll realize that that person has an open door for hearing, or they have a need of a friendship. Mm-hmm. And we need to, the Spirit works really well with that. And when the name comes to mind, don't ignore it.
Yeah. I started, my things over there, my book, but I have a book over there that is attached to my Bible normally, like the case that I have where I now jot down people's names. And so when I'm reading my Bible, I glance at that and I think, okay, I need to check in on them. Like, what's the update on them and how are they doing? And then on my phone, I also have that same thing. So just in case I'm out and about and I don't have my Bible, for me to glance at that throughout my day so that my blinders aren't so...
Right. Well, that's so good. That really is, because sometimes it's not an opportune time. You're in the middle of something, But, just writing that thing down and then not be embarrassed either. It's like, if you wrote it down and then you forgot about it and then like 2 weeks later you see that note again, you're like, oh man, like do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Because sometimes, I don't know how many times it's like when I thought about it, something was happening, but they didn't actually need anything from me until the day I actually contacted them.
Yeah.
And so don't worry about it. Like God's timing is so much more complex than call them now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. I don't know. It's just so intricate and so cool when you actually start working through that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it anyway. Just do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Even if you come off as a little weird, like why is she contacting me? Like it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. And if you get to start like being seen as that odd person who just randomly texts every once in a while, that's okay, because how many more people are actually texting them?
Right. With the intention of that person texting has intentions of good and wanting to seek out a building relationship to eventually help them with their walk and their salvation. So
and not
be
needing
the weird
anything,
person.
because that's a lot of other things. Like how many times do we get a text from somebody just because they love us or just because they're wondering about us?
I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, hey, I need this, or you wouldn't have to know about this, or do you know this person? Or there's so many texts like that. Like the other ones will stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the weird one sending it at a random moment. It may not be random. It's God's timing. And
right.
Yeah.
I've even had it wake me up and felt like I needed to text someone in the middle of the night, and it ended up being a really good thing because they were going through something and really needed that text. And that's okay too, even though my anxiety had gotten to me. It's like, I can't text somebody at 2 a.m.
I've done the same thing, and I've done it anyway, and it was so good. And for my case, my phone's silenced, so like maybe their phone isn't silenced, but maybe it is, and
maybe it is, and they're supposed to see it when they get up in the morning.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty, so let's move on to. Did you have anything else you want to share?
Nope. Good job.
Okay, so let's go to the verse 24 of chapter 9. So it says, this is for the need for self-discipline. Do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone is running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer, beating in the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to the others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. That's self-discipline.
Yeah. Well, and at that time, we had talked about in a previous podcast about like they had games in Corinth that were second only to the Olympics.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah. And so this would have really hit home with a lot of the people.
This would have resonated with them.
Right, because this is something that they were doing like big time in Corinth. And I don't know, at the same time, it's like I'm looking at this and I'm like, how intensely serious this is. Because the game we're playing, the race that we're running, I mean, eternity's at stake. And we don't want to be disqualified. And sometimes I just, I know I've said this before, but sometimes I just really don't think we take this as seriously as we should. Like, this is life or death.
Yeah, we go into a mundane life and we go through the daily checklist of life, and then we forget that there's so much. There's an end result to this. There's a finish line, if you will, with the prize.
Right.
To this, and
and the prize is literally out of this world.
Oh yeah, literally out of this world. That's so great. So I like how he was saying the intensity of him saying, no, I strike a blow to my body and make it a slave, so that after I preach to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. So like he's so disciplined in what he's called to do. He's so disciplined in serving Christ above all else, about putting all of this into practice that he's been talking about with the church, that he's like, I'm clear.
Yeah.
I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I know
Yeah.
that I am here to love God, love others, and share the gospel.
Mm-hmm. And he's willing to do anything, with his body. It shouldn't be an obstacle because, he's willing to go underneath the Jewish law. Would have been, pretty strict at that, and then, or not eat meat, when it was back, a little further. Like he was willing to put his body through any of that and through the hardships. And at other times it had talked about how he didn't even have a coat. He didn't have food. It's like his body was a tool being used for God. And so like mind and body, he was like totally bought in.
So I think about the
Yeah.
times that, especially in where we live, how easy we have it, and how when we get so slightly uncomfortable, like not had a meal in a few hours, and then that's all we can think about,
Right.
instead of using that time to
It's like when we get hangry, we need to check ourselves and realize, there's an opportunity to grow here, not an opportunity to like bite everybody's head off that's around me.
Exactly.
Like we could be like Christ, even in this moment. Yeah.
Strike a blow to the body because he needs to be
Right.
more disciplined in that. Yeah.
Right.
When he was
Right.
talking about
Yeah.
the strictness of that, and how he is where everyone's competing in the games goes into strict training, and how some people are not going to get the crown that will last, but we are in for the race for the crown that will last, because he's just saying, as Christians, like, let's not play the mundane thing, but when we need to be disciplined in the mundane things that we have, the mundane tasks. Let's lock in as Christians. Let's be in the Word, so that when God brings bigger opportunities in our life, that we're ready for that, and we're ready to be used for His kingdom, and that we need to be able to be in our strict discipline, to be in the race. We need to be in a community. We need to be in the body of Christ. We need to be together to help hold each other, to support one another in that.
I like that. Yeah, we really need to. Yeah, the intentionality is so important.
Yeah. So a lot of this was him saying, like, this is me taking care of my own body, and it does come. You have to get yourself in check first, but I think to stay disciplined in that, like, community, that's where community comes into play.
Yeah.
So when you're struggling with something, you have other believers
right. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing it alone, the success rate goes way down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we need people to hold us accountable and to walk alongside us and give us encouragement.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Okay.
That wraps up chapter 9.